Hello, all you beautiful mega flexers. Um, I apologise for the fact that my content is late this week. As you know, I'm not at home and everything is a bit all over the place. So, I'm a bit late. Better late than never, though. Hey, I wanted to talk today about dying consciously or dying in general because we've looked in the Wattle and some of the podcasts that me and Tash have done recently. We have looked at um, whether there is an incarnation trap, whether we're being sort of tricked into passing over, dying, leaving our energy, energy leaving our body, and somehow we're being tricked back in, stuck in the matrix on an energetic soul level. It's a theory that I'm looking at. I'm not sure where I feel with that one. Um, I certainly think that that dying has been corrupted, or it has its overlay, just like everything else here, to make it into something which it doesn't have to be, doesn't need to be. So I'm going to start with a poem, which is not really what I normally do, but reason being, this poem made me laugh, and I don't think we talk enough about death. I don't. I think it's a taboo. It's because it's a taboo subject. That's part of the overlay because it's all about keeping us in fear, isn't it? Anyway, this is called "Let Me Die: A Young Man's Death," and it's by Roger McGough. So, let me die a young man's death, not a clean and in between the sheets holy water death, not a famous last words peaceful out of breath death. When I'm 73 and in constant good humour, may I be mown down at dawn by a bright red sports car on my way home from an all-night party. When I'm 91 with silver hair and sitting in a barber's chair, may rival gangsters with ham-fisted Tommy guns burst in and give me a short back and insides. Or when I'm 104 and banned from the cavern, may my mistress, catching me in bed with her daughter and fearing for her son, cut me up into little pieces and throw away every single piece but one. Let me die a young man's death, not a free from sin, tiptoe in, candle wax and waning death, not a curtains drawn by angels born. What a nice way to go, death. So yeah, I just thought that was funny, because I think most people, if they're asked what sort of death would you choose, usually say I want to go in my sleep. I guess there's a lot of trauma around how we might die if it's an accident or something gruesome. But I do think that there's a lot of negative fear-based overlay with when we talk about or think about dying. So me and Tash in our little waffles about the dying process have talked about the fact that obviously a lot of our elderly people pass away in hospitals and likely under the influence of certain drugs, end of life drugs, which everybody's given, and rightly so if you're uncomfortable and in pain. But I do wonder how that affects the energy body as you leave. And we've talked about the incarnation, as I said, and the white light trap. So what I do now when I talk about the overlay or the Anunnaki influences, I try to sort of look at stuff that might have existed outside of the programming and the brainwashing. And I'm always led to tribal people and indigenous tribes, indigenous people, because they're the only human beings here that have managed to not be programmed, because they don't have televisions and they live the way that they do, the way that they've lived for thousands of years. So I always look at them, and most tribes have a very different attitude to death than we do in the West. And also in certain tribes, and certainly the elders or the wise woman or wise man of the tribe knew when they were going to die, and would take themselves, take themselves into that space and say, well, I'm gonna die. So I guess what I'm alluding to is the fact that I guess if you're very, very in tune, very outside of any programming, and you're very in tune with your intuition and natural living, and living, in harmony with nature and the energies, it seems that gives you the insight. You're so in tune with yourself that you know when your time's coming. Also, animals do this. A number of animals are known to, cats do it. And if they're sick and they know they're going to die, they will take themselves off and go and find somewhere nice to lie down and go, let themselves go. So it's just interesting to think and wonder whether perhaps in our more natural state, we would have more of an intuition about when we were going to die, and therefore more acceptance and just seeing it as a part of life rather than something we have to spend our whole life avoiding. Our attitude to death is certainly part of our programming. All of the programming that we have on us is fear-based. And I think probably a lot of people fear death. If it's not their biggest death, it's their biggest fear. It's up there with all the fears, with all the things that you think, I don't want that to happen to me. And yet it's actually the one certainty when we're born, it's the one certainty is that we are all going to die. So it's interesting that that's such a good way of keeping us in a fear-based paradigm, is just to get everybody to be absolutely petrified of dying, this inevitable, I don't believe in death of the soul. I never have. Energy can't die. It can transmute. It can become another form of energy, or it can be expended in inertia, whatever it is, velocity, but it will not die. So when we leave our bodies, we continue. And my attitude to death is that it's just an unknown, and therefore it's a great adventure. And we don't know till we get there what it's going to be like. But I look at it as an adventure, and also the opportunity to be free, because I don't think any of us are free here, truly free. So I just see it like that. I had a near-death experience. Anyone that came on the Q&A, we talked quite a lot about the near-death experience in the Q&A, and people shared their experiences, and quite a lot of people had them. And I had mine when I was in India, and I was 18, which is quite young. But I've not had fear of death since I had that happen to me. And I actually think it's a blessing that I was so young when that happened. But I just wanted to share an NDE experience from one of my very close friends. He's older than me. He's been more of a surrogate father type figure in my life. Known him for years and years and years. And a couple of years ago, he had a very sudden and chronic heart attack, and he died. And the air ambulance was called, and he was resuscitated and flown to a hospital where his life was saved. But he died for several minutes, and he had a very, very clear experience while he was dead, which was so enjoyable and so amazing that he was actually quite depressed afterwards, because he didn't want to be here anymore. He wanted to go back. And it caused a few problems in his relationship, because obviously his partner was very upset that he wasn't bothered about staying with her here, just wanted to die, basically. So they sorted that out, and new things started in his life, and he's actually enjoying his life again now. But he still says to me, and always says to me, Beck, death is nothing to be scared of. Not that I am scared, but he certainly had a deeper near-death experience than I did. And he says to me that death is the reward. And I love that. Because he sees it that it's beautiful here in the realm. It's lovely, isn't it? It's got amazing things, it's got shit things, it's got everything. It's got the hottest hot, the coldest cold, the most beautiful joy, the most awful hurt. Whatever you want in this realm actually is there, but you cannot avoid the death. And it's hard here. It's hard. It's not an easy place to be. And he just felt like when he died, it was the reward. It was like the feeling of freedom, completeness, peace, all and everything, no separation. He says it's the reward. And I kind of hold that, and I say things like that to people when they're dying, because they need to hear the good stuff, because we've been programmed and programmed and programmed that it's going to be some horrendous and scary situation. And when you think about what we've learned about low vibration, why would you want to die in a low vibration? Are you going to take parasitic energies attached to you? You gotta wonder, how that will affect the passing over. Is it that low vibrational fear that means that you can be tricked in your death experience? If you've got a really high vibration, would any of that trickery, that overlay, that Anunnaki programming, would it get into you? No, probably not. So I think this fear vibration with death, and this is to keep everybody in a very, very low vibration as they pass, as they move from one reality to another. I've also wondered, I mean, I do struggle a bit with the AI gaming analogies that people use. I'm getting there a little bit, because I don't game. But I do, and I have thought before, when we die, is it like taking a virtual reality headset off and we go, wow, that was a trip? So that's kind of how I view dying. It's just the next experience in my journey, the next part of my journey. I think the main thing about the experience, what I'm learning about being human and being in the realm at this time, is it is about letting go a lot of the time, letting go of the programming, letting go of my old beliefs, letting go of the old way that I used to see the world, letting go of my ideals about what reality is. And all of that is letting go of the programming, and it's a process. And I think dying and losing fear of death is also a letting go. We're having to let go of a lot, those of us that are aware now. So as I was thinking about all this, and obviously with what's going on in my life at the moment, I am thinking about all this. I wondered why it was that there's so much support put around the birth of somebody. For example, I mean, I'm not saying particularly now with the way that our health services and the way we have children now, but what I'm saying is, always when a woman went into labor and a child was being birthed, there would be someone there. There would be a midwife. That's what they were called, midwife, to help bring that being from inside out into the world and being born. And I was thinking, if I had time, I'd like to set up a death doula service in an ideal world. And just like we have birthing doulas now, if you've not heard of that, it's, I'm sure you have, but it's sort of an alternative to a midwife. And some mothers now hire a doula, and they get to know the mother, spend time with the mother leading up to the birth, and find out all about what the mother would like. And they make sure that that happens and that the baby is delivered as safely as possible within the remit of the way that the mother wants the birth to be. And I was thinking, we need something like that for people who are passing. We need people who are not scared of death to be able to go in, befriend that person, and help them to die in a relaxed way, in a calm way, in a peaceful way, in a high vibrational way, in a safe way, and also in the way that they would like. For example, my father has expressed he would like to die at home. And so that has actually meant he's having a very bourgeoisie passing because he's able to be in his own room in a hospital bed with a living carer. And because of the way things are at the moment, he has to take all his food and drink from a little teaspoon. So I do laugh about the fact that my father is having such a bourgeoisie passing and literally taking it from a silver spoon. Does he have a silver spoon in his mouth? Yes, he does. But that's what he's chosen. So as his death doula, I'm making sure that that is in place. Plus the music he loves, the flowers he loves, everything in that space that he loves. And that's what we do for people when they arrive. It's a very special occasion, lots of effort, lots of energy, lots of fuss. But everyone shies away from the death. Everyone doesn't want to sit in the room with the person. They don't know what to say. They're skirting around the subject. And I just think that comes from all that fear, doesn't it? It's very natural to die. And it actually can be a very beautiful experience, just like birth can be, if the space is held in the right way. So the process is natural, and it's become a very unnatural process. And having kind of fought hard for my relative, for him to have what he wanted, I know how little choice people really have, especially the elderly, about the way that they leave the realm these days. So I'm going to make sure that when my time comes, that I'm so intuitive and in tune that I can die the way that I would like to, which is in a sunny field under a tree in some beautiful garden in England. Anyway, I hope this hasn't been a morbid subject. It's not morbid. It shouldn't be morbid. But I hope that you can understand that now everything that I experience in life, I'm looking for the overlay. I'm looking for the programming. I'm looking for the brainwashing, and I'm looking for the reason why. And I've done that with what I'm experiencing, with the way that people are managed and held or not held during their death time. So yeah, I'm going to start deathdoulas.com as soon as I've got the time. Anyway, guys, have a beautiful week, and I'll see you all very soon.